Why there are no PG-13 animated movies, or especially R-rated animated movies? R-rated animated movies do exist, but there's never really a studio that said can make an R-rated animated movie. But why did they make stuff like Mega Man, Spider-Verse, and the new Turtles movie, PG-13, or Puss in Boots: The Last Wish could have easily been a PG-13 movie as well, considering the mature themes that movie tackles. Goals. Why must animated movies be PG? And yes, some movies like Wonder Park, no one's gonna watch that anyways, it's garbage. But I think there should be a good variety of ratings for animated movies. Animated movies for teenagers and animated movies for more adult-oriented audiences. But almost every animated movie is rated PG, which, again, there's nothing wrong with rating gay movies to PG. Gay movie PG means that the biggest audience is going to be seen it because, the whole goal is to get the whole family to see the movie. But, for example, Spider-Verse, mostly the people who are going to see Spider-Verse, we're using this movie as the first example, are comic book nerds and fans of comic book movies and the existing characters of Spider-Man. Why keep the movie PG? Okay, Spider-Verse and its sequel are considered phenomenal movies by the fans, but they still kept the movie rated PG. Okay, and really, there's really not much to make that could make the movie PG-13, maybe besides including swearing, because it's still a good movie, even if it's rated PG. But the problem with animated movies is that they're afraid to step out of the PG bubble. And this is where people get the view that animation is for kids. Because PG movies, I have no idea why Jurassic Dominion is here. Dominion is PG-13. But movies and old, why is old here? It's rated R. But basically PG movies is parental guidance is suggested. Okay. It's movies that are appropriate for people under the age of 14. PG-14 is maybe inappropriate for children under 14. Some material may be inappropriate. That means, why are studios so afraid to make the movies PG-14? At least I'm talking about animated movies here. Okay, we got PG-14 animated movies. You don't really get many options for movies. You really don't. Okay. Yeah, you don't get really many PG-13 animated movies. And there are some studios directors that make the animated movies, R-rated animated movies. Okay. A lot of them are very bad movies, like Sausage Party, but that just try to make really bad and crude jokes at your expense, or stuff like, movies that nobody watches, but again, R-rated animated movies are still a very scarce thing. Okay? And I think studios should try to step into more mature themes for older people. Not just movies that are just, we have a bunch of dick jokes and a bunch of sex jokes like in Sausage Party. Like actual mature themes, like anime tackles. Anime movies, where they're constantly ranked as some of the best R-rated animated movies, where they're constantly using anime movies. For example, Ghost in the Shell is an example of this. Is an R-rated animated movie made by Japan, and as well. Or you can make up more movies inspired by anime. A lot of anime tackle more serious themes, and a lot of anime movies are rated PG-13. Some of them, like Dragon Ball, rated PG for some reason. Then, because they remove all the blood and gore from the movie. Okay? But make the movies, more realistic. Okay? Make the movies, for example, Puss in Boots doesn't have to be PG-14. The rest of the Shrek series is rated PG. But I think making something like Puss in Boots rated PG-13, okay, for example, going the extra mile, because parents make the kids to see Avengers movies all the time. Okay, like Guardians of the Galaxy is PG-14, but a lot of younger audiences are still going to see Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay. If they really want to tackle the mature themes in the movie even more, they could have easily made the movie rated PG-13. Also made the first Shrek movie to not be rated PG or G. I don't forget the Shrek movies are rated Z, which G means anyone, even like Little Mac and Big Bro Papa can watch them, or the most sensitive people will get offended about the movie. But I think the movie that will benefit the most from this would have been Spider-Verse. The Spider-Verse movies are extremely well-reviewed movies. Most people like the Spider-Verse movies. I'm talking about most people, because there's still people who want to be different and not like Spider-Verse. But Spider-Verse could have easily been a PG-13 movie like its live-action counterparts. And there are people who are going to see these movies and see it's animated and say, oh, let's just watch the live-action Spider-Man movie for, like, for example, Spider-Man 2 for the 80th time, because Spider-Verse is deemed a kid's movie. And you're a teenager now, and to be watching the live-action ones instead. It was much more easier for those 5 people who still think animation is for kids, or they're mostly boomers and Gen X, to realize, hey, oh, it's a Spider-Man movie. Oh, it's rated PG-13, just like the live-action versions, and give it the same type of tone and feeling that they do as the live-action movies, but it's only rated PG because they have to tone it down because it's an animated movie, which is dumb. Just because something is animated doesn't mean it needs to be rated PG. This is the dumbest argument I've ever heard. Okay, animation is for kids. The dumbest argument I've ever heard. And of course, there are tons of proof of that. You have Adult Swim and adult cartoons. Okay, I'm talking about stuff like South Park, yeah. We have Japanese anime. Ain't no way something like Chainsaw Man is gonna be turned into a PG movie. Okay? Heck, My Hero Academia will be hard to turn into PG because it has more serious tones than most animated movies, and the rest will tackle. Okay? But I think My Hero Academia, they can at least make that PG. Say if they might have to make Dragon Ball PG. So I think My Hero Academia and Naruto, especially something like Boruto, PG. But ain't no way they're making the Pain Arc PG more than PG-13. Okay? Or the whole thing of Sasuke and Itachi. Okay? That's impossible to make that stuff PG-13. The only thing you can really do is remove the blood, and maybe you can make it PG as well. But a lot of anime is more mature. They're willing to have swearing and blood in it, and stuff that would make a movie rated PG-13. Okay? As well. I think studios shouldn't be afraid to make their movies more darker. For example, Puss in Boots was praised because Puss in Boots was willing to tackle themes that most movies dare not to talk about. Okay? Stuff like panic attacks and stuff like existential dread of death. Something that, other movies are just portrayed death as, oh, it's gonna be peaceful, and it's gonna be, nice. Puss in Boots was willing to show the existential dread of dying and losing your life, which a lot of people fear and can relate to. For example, all you have to do is go on Reddit and YouTube, and you have videos related to the eventual death of your body, and basically your eventual death, and people having dread over it. It's a common thing that both kids, adults, and old people have, of the existential fear and dread of dying. Because a lot of people view death as peaceful, but a lot of people view death as dreadful. Not a good thing. The end. And sad. Okay? The existential fear of have their own lives of ending. Okay? And I think everybody has had that fear at one point. I think it would be much better if DreamWorks said, okay, let's go full on of the accidental dread and fear of dying in Puss in Boots. It makes the movie rated PG-13. Not R rating, that would have been taking it too far. But you even say the same about R-rated animated movies. I don't know how you could make an R-rated animated movie, besides making it, crude, like South Park. But I think making an R-rated animated movie could work. Something like Akira and Ghost in the Shell worked. Because even though they're not rated PG. Again, both were made by Japan. Because Western studios are too afraid to tackle the PG-13 and R-rated movies as well. And even then, when they do try to do it, they make something like Sausage Party. Okay? And I think good stories can be told in any rating, Z, PG, PG-13, and R rating. But I think some of these stories, like Puss in Boots, The Last Race, and Spider-Verse, and Megamind, we even talk about that movie as well, that if they chose a much higher rating for R-rated animated movies, okay, you know, how much they will have gone into the themes. But I think another one I think people will be surprised about is the original pitch for the Lorax. It was going to be a much more darker movie. But of course, with the Lorax, they decided to say, okay, let's not keep with Dr. Seuss's original theme. We'll try to keep the movie as PG as possible. And I think it's just the problem with the whole idea of Hollywood. They view animation as a medium for kids. Okay? Okay? Hollywood and thus society views animation is for kids. Okay? Boom. And I think this whole idea is going away finally. Okay? This whole idea, okay, you know, it's for kids. I do like the idea of having entertainment for everybody. But I think we should have both live action, which we do have live action entertainment, and animation entertainment for kids. Okay? But according to Disney and the Oscars and these higher ups at Hollywood, they still believe in the idea that animation is just a kid's medium. That animation is not art or anything. That's just a kid's medium. And I think it's gonna take a while for Hollywood to finally step out of the bubble and believing that animation can be made for older audiences. Which means we'll finally get, animated movies based off, Alien, Terminator, which are series that are historically R-rated movies. Okay. And even the media is trying to wake up Hollywood that animation isn't just for kids. Okay, stuff like Avatar: The Last Airbender, or you can just look at the Japanese animation, proving that animation isn't just for kids. But Hollywood is still stuck in this bubble that they believe that animation is for kids. Okay, Disney believes it, so Disney's not gonna change their mind anytime soon. Heck, Disney probably believes all the movies are made for kids. Honestly, okay, but because Disney does not make R-rated movies, Fox does, but Fox obviously operates different than Disney. Okay, but basically, ever since probably since the 70s and 80s and 60s, they basically tried to censor animation and try to make animation as kid friendly as possible. This push really started in like the 60s and 70s when they tried to push animation as basically, kids stuff with like Saturday morning cartoons and stuff like that. And of course, Walt Disney Corporation being the biggest push of animation is for kids. Basically, the media pushed the idea that animation is for kids. So basically, you have whole generations of people believing that animation, for example, most boomers and Gen X believe animation is for kids. Okay, a lot of millennials don't, but there's still a good portion that do believe that. But I think we're gonna start to see a shift from Gen Z and Gen Alpha. They're gonna be the first generation to grow up with the internet and not believe that animation is just for kids. I think we're gonna start to see people from those generations start to finally push the boundaries of making PG-13 animated movies on streaming services and theatrical releases. And of course, R-rated animated movies as well. And just because something doesn't release in theaters doesn't mean it discounts it. For example, Arcade released on Netflix, and that's an animated series, or a cyberpunk anime. We're starting to see stuff that finally starting to say, hey, you know what, animation is more than just kids' entertainment. It can be taken seriously. I think the companies that will probably take this first will be DreamWorks and Sony Animation. They'll actually take animation. I think DreamWorks, at least with some people in DreamWorks, I think you have two groups in DreamWorks. You have people who take animation seriously, with like stuff like Puss in Boots, The Bad Guys, and Kung Fu Panda. And then we have the more other parts of DreamWorks who make stuff like Ruby Gilbert and Trolls. I think DreamWorks is probably happy with having catering to two types of audiences. Making movies that are more in a line of illumination style of movies, and making movies that are more serious like Kung Fu Panda and Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, and The Bad Guys. Movies that are way more serious than something like Ruby Gilbert probably will be. But I think we're finally starting to see a turning corner with the whole idea that animation is for kids. Okay. Heck, even Nintendo, which is another company that's traditionally seen as a kids company, owns series like Fire Emblem and Xenoblade and Metroid. Three IPs that are definitely for more mature audiences. Even Nintendo makes games for more mature audiences. Yes, they don't sell as well as Mario's and Pokemon, which are for more all audiences. But the people who love those IPs are still going to buy new Metroid games, new Xenoblade games, and new Fire Emblem games. And Nintendo will treat those fans as equally as other Nintendo IPs. Something like Fire Emblem is definitely for more older audiences, as they tackle more mature themes and often gain the T rating. Not the M rating, but the T rating. Same thing with Xenoblade as well, and same for Metroid as well. I wouldn't be surprised if we eventually get an M-rated Metroid game. I think Nintendo should step the boundary and make an M-rated Metroid game. I think fans of Metroid would be very happy if we get an M-rated Metroid game and not this T rating, which is still always beyond the E10 plus Nintendo games typically get. And heck, if Illumination wants to, they could collaborate with Nintendo to make a PG-13 Metroid movie. People say, but Illumination does make kids movies. But again, Nintendo will probably oversee the production of a Metroid movie. You really think they wouldn't? But Metroid is considered one of Nintendo's more important IPs. So Nintendo would be making the movie try to fit in with the more mature style of Metroid. And maybe people finally realize that Illumination is not the company that people think they do. Yeah. But again, that's all speculation for a Metroid movie. But something like I really think that movies like Spider-Verse and Puss in Boots, meanwhile being some of the greatest movies I've ever seen, among the greatest films ever made, I still think they'll be enhanced if they weren't restricted by the whole notion that we must make the movies PG so we can continue to notion that animation is for kids, that they're just kids movies and older people cannot enjoy them as well. And I am fine with companies making movies that can be universally enjoyed by everybody. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is a movie that can be universally enjoyed by everybody, but that doesn't mean Puss in Boots is a children's movie. Okay, and that's why I think animation studios should try to take more risks more often. I think DreamWorks is fine. DreamWorks and Sony Pictures Entertainment are two animation studios that are willing to take more risks when it comes to their movies. I'm glad they are doing that. Or something like The Mitchells vs. the Machines, making a movie of LGBT characters and not making it controversial like Disney, and just making it normal. Or Spider-Verse, introducing more diverse characters from more diverse countries, for example, like India and, of course, Canada. But, making characters for those audiences without pissing off older fans in the wild, which is something that Disney is continuing to fail to do. Like the Little Mermaid remake could have easily been a new story, but Disney wanted the cash grab on the Little Mermaid, and that's how it got the Little Mermaid remake as well. It seems that Disney is failing, meanwhile other studios aren't. I think if we're going to get PG-13 animated movies in the future, we'll probably either get from a new animated studio made by either Gen Z person who wants to prove the animation stuff for kids and make a more mature animated movie with more mature characters as well. And I can't wait till we get a day where we get animated movies that are both rated PG-13 and R-rated. Which I think we're going to probably get our first major one within by the end of this decade. Which means we'll further prove that cartoons and animation, which Japan has already proven us, okay, all we have to do is look at the medium of anime. Look at something like Jujutsu Kaisen, or look at something like, Chainsaw Man, okay, and for some reason, Bad Guys is considered an anime. But for example, something like Jujutsu Kaisen, I have not seen the show, but most likely Jujutsu Kaisen is pretty mature. Again, kids will not be able to, some kids might not be able to watch something like Jujutsu Kaisen or Chainsaw Man. So I do want animation that is more for more general audiences. So younger people can have characters they look up to as well. But I do think there should be animated movies made specifically for older audiences in mind. Okay, PG-13 R-rated animated movies. Okay, I think Hollywood should stop being a bunch of pussies and make R-rated PG-14 animated movies. But with stuff like the writer's strike happening and stuff like that, I don't think it could be getting an R-rated or PG-14 animated movie for a while. Like an actual major movie, not a small indie movie or direct-to-DVD DC Studios movie or direct-to-DVD Marvel movie as well. But I think with streaming, I think the first major ones are going to start to appear on streaming before they release in theaters. Because I think they're going to really test the grounds with streaming services like Netflix. See if people will really buy an animated movie that's not just rated PG. Goodbye.